Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
Day one of the NCAA tournament didn't give us many thrillers, but we still got some upsets. Also, speaking of upsets, just how upset is Clemson after they got upset by McNeese State? And this is not the year to reach for a quarterback in the NFL draft. This episode brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year.
I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
On the old day one of the NCAA tournament, we got, it's March. There was a little less madness than we are used to. Isaac Shade from Locked On College Basketball joins me now. And Isaac, that's not to say we didn't have upsets. That's not to say we didn't have entertaining games. What was the through line, the big takeaway, the big storyline from are we going to call it day one? Whatever we're going to call Thursday of the NCAA tournament, the first week.
Yes, this is absolutely day one. The play-in games are like day -1 and day -2. Like I can't. Yeah. Come on.
If that's the happy hour, this is now, okay, we're at the restaurant, we're having the meal.
Yes, 100%. There was a moment just very quickly when they tried to call that round one and it's like Thursday was day two. What? Come on. Or round two. What are we doing? Get out of here with that. Anyway, the third window of the day was phenomenal. It was the second window I was most excited about. Just quickly, for those who might not be aware, Thursday and Friday, there are 16 games, 4 windows, 4 games each. And so I always look at these windows, like which window gets my juices going, Peter? Which one am I the most excited about? Going into it, it was the second window, but man, it was the third window that I thought most delivered. We had the Arkansas-Kansas game, which was crazy with the Bill Self and the John Calipari of it all, Boogie Fland coming back, and Kansas just absolutely cratering. You know, they've now not made it to the second weekend in the last 5 of the last 6 tournaments, Peter, with the 2022 championship, the lone outlier there. I mean, it's crazy stuff. From Brian Ives, who does great work for ACC Network, he says Kansas' streak of consecutive NCAA tournament appearances with at least 1 win is snapped at 17. Peter, it gives me no pleasure to tell you that falls 1 shy of North Carolina's all-time record of 18 from 1981 to 1998. But the game I want to go to in that third window is Drake and Mizzou. If you listened to Locked On College Basketball at all this week, or me on anywhere else I have been trumpeting these Drake Bulldogs, because why? They have given this year Ben McCollum a chance. Their head coach, Darian DeVries, went to West Virginia and has now just jumped ship to Indiana. But Ben McCollum got called up from the D2 ranks. This is not something that happens. D2 coaches don't often get these opportunities. And he has knocked it out of the park. 30 wins, now 31 with this 67-57 win over Drake. And it's not just that he's a D2 guy, Peter. He brought 4 D2 guys with him, including Bennett Sturts, who's the leading scorer for this team, an absolute dude. He had 14 of their first 20 points, throwing alley-oops while they're salting the game away, right? Most people pull that out. No, he's just going, I love that Drake.
Anybody else have a little Florida Gulf Coast flashback there?
Oh, my word. Dunk City all over again. Yes. Great call. Great poll, Peter. And I love it, too, because Drake had a lead. Like, it wasn't some miracle. Like, they owned this game. Mizzou made a late push, got it down to 1. And then Drake took every one of those hits and just pushed it right back out to 8, 9, 10 points and salted the game away, despite shooting horribly at the free throw line. And that's how you know that they dominated, is that they were able to survive 12 of 24 from the charity stripe.
Which of the teams that we saw win on Thursday do you think, maybe whether it was in surprising fashion or not, is the most dangerous moving forward, aside from the obvious? Like, let's not pick Houston here or Auburn, but one of these other teams where you go, hey, they played a lot better than I thought. This team could be dangerous.
Well, I was going to say Houston, Peter. So, no, I'm going back and forth in my head a little bit. And I think I'm actually going to settle on UCLA, question mark. Here's why. I thought Utah State was going to win that game by a couple possessions.
Yeah.
And the fighting McBruins, as we like to call them on Locked On College Basketball, come out here and just dominate Utah State. It was a very impressive victory. And it's like, all right, these sneaky 7 seeds, like if they can hold up and continue to perform that way. And the other team I want to point out is the anti-Houston. And here's what I mean. The Gonzaga Bulldogs have made 9 straight.
I was hoping you would mention Gonzaga.
They started this year by obliterating Baylor on the first night of the season. I love that we got that game. And I had great expectations for Gonzaga coming into the season. And then that game, and I was like, oh boy, look at you, Isaac Shade. You got that one right. And then Gonzaga's kind of struggled. And then they come out and tear apart this Georgia team. That opening 13-0 run that grew to like 8 million to 3, I think it was at one point, Peter, and just dominated. And now on Saturday, we're going to get the first ever NCAA tournament meeting between 2 teams that have a Sweet 16 streak of at least 5 straight tournaments. Houston has 5 in a row. Gonzaga has 9 in a row. I mean, it's insane. And one of the issues for me, just at a selection committee level, is Gonzaga was underseeded. They should have gone up to 7 or 6. And now it's not just them that's punished. It's the Houston Cougars, who are facing a team that's top 10 in KenPom in their second game. Going to be really intriguing on Saturday.
Don't worry, we did not forget about Clemson McNeese State. More on that upset coming up in just a little bit here on Locked On Sports Today. To stay up to date on all things college basketball, subscribe to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On College Basketball on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Plus, check out the bracket breakdown on Amazon Fire TV channels all tournament long. Your Locked On Sports Today coming up. Just how bad of a day did Clemson have? We try to answer that one, and we go around the bracket for day 1 action. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all the money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Plus, managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. Track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. 8-9 matchups usually slap. Gonzaga slapped Georgia instead.
This incredible performance from Mark Few and the Zags. Gonzaga has not lost in the first round of the NCAA tournament since basically nobody knew who Steph Curry was. Since he was at Davidson, he had a monstrous game against Gonzaga in that tournament way back in 2008. But that's the last time Gonzaga didn't win in the first round. And there was some real skepticism coming into this game. I think, frankly, I think that there was a lot of reasons to like the matchup with Georgia, but this was a tall team. This was a good rebounding team. This was a good defensive team. And we've had enough examples of Gonzaga struggling against teams that are tough and physical and do the things that Georgia does well. So there was reason to be a little bit skeptical. And I think Gonzaga put that to rest faster than I've ever seen them put that to rest in a basketball game. They're up 13-0 at the first media timeout in this game.
VCU took an early lead, but you can never count out BYU.
It has been a hot minute since BYU's made it to the round of 32, but it sure feels good. And yes, before y'all decide to start dunking on me, I am going to eat crow. Jaeger Demon absolutely made me eat my words. He was marvelous in this game. I had harbored concerns for weeks, and I back up what I said earlier in the week. I did harbor concerns that BYU needed a steady hand at the helm of this offense. Jaeger made me eat crow. I'm eating it right now. I will own every bit of what I said earlier this week because he answered and looked the part of the guy who could go in the top 10 of this NBA draft.
Auburn, yeah, they're a number one seed for a reason. They had no issues with Alabama State.
The Auburn Tigers get it done. They are dancing into the round of 32. First half was not pretty, especially the last 10 minutes or so. Thank goodness for Miles Kelly for giving Auburn that nice hot start from deep. And then it was a full team effort in the second half. Auburn came out in the second half and said, hey, we are the better team, and we're going to show you. The Tigers take on Creighton, a team who shot red hot against Louisville earlier in the day. They battle on Saturday. Who you got? Auburn or Creighton? Which team advances to the Sweet 16?
Kansas, they had a tough first round draw, but we've seen how this can go before with Kansas and lower seeds.
Arkansas moves on 79-72 over Kansas in the first round of the NCAA tournament. Jayhawks finished the season with 13 losses. And this was a game that Kansas had no business, losing by 7. You're up 67-64 for, it feels like, 4 or 5 possessions down the court, and you can't extend the lead. And then when you get down, you still can't score to come back into the game. Just a horrible end to the game for KU. And how many times this season have we seen that happen for KU? This almost felt the most fitting way for them to lose this type of game. You think of the Houston game where you blow that one twice. You think of the Texas Tech game at home. You think of even a little bit the Arizona game, even the UCF game in the Big 12 tournament that you won. And there are countless others, right? There's too many to remember. That's the problem. So many difficult. And that's the weird thing. Like, if this was that 05 or 06 Kansas team that was filled with a bunch of freshmen and sophomores, you could understand it. It would be the growing process that's going to lead to something really exciting. This was the most experienced team in the country, and not once this season did it feel like that was the case.
And did Tennessee just get a tournament run, a deep tournament run started?
Again, Tennessee's a 2 seed. Wofford's a 15 seed. This is supposed to happen. And I saw some chatter. I was covering the baseball game for much of the second half, remotely, but I was paying attention more to the, y'all should see my setup in here in the office. I got one screen where I've got, the general's quarters up here. I'm talking to the game thread. I've got my other screen that's got the baseball game streaming. I've got my laptop here with stats and a story I'm working on. I got my TV over here with the basketball game and another laptop, or an iPad, I should say, with the live stats for the basketball game. And I had to set up for sure. But I saw some people complaining like this should have been a blowout. This should have been, Tennessee should have, run away with it in the second half. And sure, right? Tennessee had some areas of its game that wasn't great. We'll get into that here in a moment. But tip your cap to Wofford, man. I thought they played their brains out. I thought they crushed it. I thought they did a really good job.
Clemson got absolutely boat raced by 12 seed McNeese State. Locked On Clemson host Morgan Thomas breaks down the brutal loss for the Tigers.
This was the absolute worst first half of basketball in Clemson NCAA history. Really, it was a disaster for NCAA history in general. 13 points was absolutely ridiculous. Clemson came into this game as a number 5 seed in what many, including myself, had started to believe that a 5 seed was too low, was an underbid, if you will, for the Tigers. We thought that Clemson was much better than that. They were better than the teams in front of them. And we also felt like that Clemson had drawn a matchup and a sequential matchup in this tournament bracket that was very favorable to them. I felt that Clemson could go from beating McNeese State to beating Purdue and then even beating Houston and have an opportunity there. I felt as if the talent on this team, the skills that this team had, and the execution that they were able to do with the 4 that we knew were good was going to be able to get them through not just this game, but the next and the next. This team was built for a deep March run. Regardless of what you want to say now after the fact, I felt, and I know a lot of us felt, that this team had much more in them, and as far as talent and as far as execution, than what we saw on the basketball court today. What we saw instead, Clemson delivered a historically disastrous first half of basketball that doomed them really all the way to the very end. It was so bad that they didn't really have a chance. It took them so long to get back into a rhythm. When they finally got into a rhythm, they were just climbing their way back in, fighting everything they could, really being a definition of grit. You know, we talk about Clemson being a gritty team, being a fighting team, you know, fighting to the last ring of the bell. And that is still very true. One thing that I thought going into this game, and we said it this whole week, and I tried to prepare you for that, is that McNeese State or any team, they could get hot and the matchups make it very difficult. Now, we thought that McNeese State was a little bit smaller of a team. It was a disaster. Clemson was absolutely out-rebounded, out-hustled, out-coached, outplayed. Clemson's first half offense was an absolute nightmare. They did not come ready to play. I thought that, you know, there was a shooting slump, and we were told by experts that, you know, this would just be something they'd get through and they'll get back to what you were used to the earlier part of the season and not the last couple of games. But that wasn't the case. Now, on that social media, you told me, Morgan, it's the basketball. You know, it's the fouls being called or not being called. It's the brand of basketball. I don't know. I mean, to me, those things are ridiculous. We know it's not the basketball. Okay, we cannot play this victim mentality that it is something that is out of our control that caused this game to be the way it was. Clemson just shot 5 of 24 from the field in the first half. From 3-point range, an absolute disaster. It was sickening to watch, a catastrophe. I mean, whatever you want to label it, it was that. As long as you're labeling it as something terrible. They were 1-15 from 3, 6.7%. I mean, just saying that makes you just want to walk away and not even talk about this game. But we have to talk about it. They couldn't get into a rhythm. They missed open looks, and they just had no one that they could really count on. And it was unfortunate because they tried to drive into the lane. Things were opening up. They, again, started to get into this mode of terrible turnovers. Whatever it's been, the shooting has been gone. The turnovers have increased. The shots haven't been falling. And Clemson, again, turned the ball over 10 times, leading to 15 McNeese State points. Brad Brownell said post-game that they weren't prepared for their zone-to-man defense and how they bounced back and forth between the two. And to me, that leaves a little bit of a bitter taste in my mouth, because if you're not preparing your team, that falls all on the head coach there.
Stay up to date all year on the Clemson Tigers by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Clemson on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Coming up, a little football in your basketball. This isn't the year to reach for a quarterback. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more, experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. Posting a job is free and simple, and within a day, you'll have multiple qualified candidates to choose from. And you can create cost-effective growth for your company. Instead of hiring full-time, Upwork helps find affordable, top-tier freelancers to scale your business efficiently. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today. There is some debate on who is better between Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, but Ward seems to be winning that debate. Who is the third best quarterback in this draft? And should that person be a high first-round pick? Matt Williamson and Brian Peacock debate this, as it doesn't appear like there's anybody out there.
I mean, to rewind a little bit, if Dart is getting top 25 consideration, I have to think they think Sanders is going 2 or 3. Yeah, I mean, right. Wouldn't you say? Yeah, I mean, like,
is that because I didn't look at Kuiper's mock, and I was actually kind of shocked. You told me off the air that
I think he did. Yeah,
so high. Did he have Sanders going 2?
I'm almost certain it was either 2 or 3. I think for both those guys, and frankly, I think they're the most dialed-in draft nicks out there. They might not be number 1. I love Dane. I love McShay. I love all those dudes, but I think the league tells DJ and Mel maybe more than anything. So, and they both will tell you they mock with their ears, not their eyes, like what the people are telling them. So I kind of believe that there is some truth to that. And I subscribe to Todd McShay's new Substack too. And he sent a mock today, like an hour ago, and he had the Giants missing out. He had Sanders going 2, and then the Giants missing out on a quarterback at 3, trading back to 19 to take Dart to get ahead of the Steelers. So like everyone that's kind of in the know is thinking these things. I mean, if Kenny Pickett can go 20, and we know they're going to go, and we know there's a shortage. And, sitting here looking at our YouTube thing, our third bullet point is quarterback crisis. And how else are you going to get them? And frankly, I don't think it's a great first round. It's not like I'm not taking Joe Alt or Fuaga or one of these great tackles, it's not a bad year to reach. But boy, we talk about it on my Steelers show a lot. Like, I don't want to use 21 on Dart, and sit behind Aaron Rodgers and Mason Rudolph for a year. And I just don't see immense upside there either. Yeah, he's talented, but
what you just did this a few of the Steelers. And
right.
Sit back and Dart's there at 21. Doesn't that tell you that nobody? Because usually people trade up for a quarterback, like a truly legit quarterback. Usually doesn't fall to 21. It happens occasionally. We saw it in 2005 with Aaron Rodgers. Is that what we're talking about here?
Weird, and that's a long time ago.
Yeah, I don't know, and so it feels like someone's going to be left out, and it's a weird situation. And the Steelers are a team that is too good to be left out at quarterback.
We see this all the time, though. Quarterbacks get pushed up, and it would not be surprising if what we saw last year incentivizes teams. Bo Nix, in most years, would not have been considered a top 15 kind of quarterback. And yet, that's where he went, and it worked in spades for the Denver Broncos. Do they look at a Jackson Dart from Ole Miss, a Tyler Shuck from Louisville, and go, we can do with him what they did with Bo Nix? Now, you might not have Sean Payton. You might not have the infrastructure, the offensive line that they put in there. Denver's offensive line was one of the best pass blocking units in the league last year. Do you have that infrastructure in place? We see the copycat league every year. Someone is going to take a run at Jackson Dart or Tyler Shuck sooner than in most years you might want to. But we just saw a team do that, and it paid off for them. The appeal of a quarterback is so great because the upside of hitting is so great. Teams are not going to stop taking their shots. And finally, Norfolk State coach Robert Jones has a monster chip on his shoulder entering his team's first-round NCAA tournament game against number 1 seed Florida on Friday. He clearly feels his team has something to prove. And I mean, he should. They're a 16 seed. But Jones takes issue with the point spread. Norfolk State, 28.5-point underdogs to number 1 seed Florida. That is an early college football season score. He said, I know Florida's really, really good, and they run a great program, got great players, but are we that bad that the point spread is like that? I mean, 16 seeds don't typically get a close point spread. So maybe you can be UMBC. But I mean, would you bet them to cover 20.5? If you're watching this episode after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're a new subscriber to Locked On Sports Today, we're here for you with the biggest stories in sports every day. Coming up, what surprises will the first weekend of the tournament have in store? There's always some. So at least until tomorrow, stay locked on sports today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
Go to our video on demand. Click on sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.